All right, I hear that we are live. So as soon as you guys can hear me, please give a shout out in the chat, and we will get this thing started. I always like to make sure that audio is good, everyone can hear me before we start talking about anything important. I don't want anyone to miss out any of the action. So, all right, Yavor says they can hear us, so I think we're good to go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign DevStream. This is DevStream number 13. We are moving right along there in those numbers. I appreciate everyone's patience. We had a little bit of a time zone mix up earlier today, daylight savings time. I keep on hearing rumors that they're going to one day do away with daylight savings time. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but the differences and when daylight savings time changes always seems to cause someone to make a mistake despite best efforts. So appreciate everyone's patience as we sorted that out. Today I have with me Alex joining us, a very popular guest on the stream. Hey Alex, how you doing?
Hi, I'm glad to be back, and I'm pretty well now. Thank you.
Good. You see, I'm sporting some Black Sea swag. I decided to wear the team colors today. So awesome. So I know a lot of you have definitely also noticed that we are running a few weeks later than normal for our dev stream, and we thought about putting this in the actual dev diary, but I decided to not post it. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but and I'll let Alex kind of talk a little bit about himself. But unfortunately, and I'm glad he's well, but Alex did get cut down with COVID, with coronavirus. So he was out of commission for a little while, and that kind of delayed things a little bit. But you recovered. You're doing well, it seems.
Yeah. I don't want to mislead anyone with this statement, but it wasn't so bad for me and my family, and we recovered pretty quickly. Actually, my wife had some more serious symptoms, but nothing that requires hospital or something like that. Just antibiotics and some other stuff. Well, we were taking about 20 pills a day. It was crazy, but yeah, now we're pretty well. And the kids, they just had no symptoms at all, and that's the important stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to hear that. I know it's a dangerous virus out there, and when I heard that you had gotten sick, I was definitely sending you a lot of well wishes, and immediately when I heard the word, we decided to postpone the Dev Diary and Dev Stream for a little bit just to give them time to recover, and now you're back and healthy, and it's great to have you back. And now we get to talk to you guys again. So again, thanks everyone for the patience. We didn't want to make a big deal out of it. That's why we didn't put anything. We actually debated quite a bit on should we post on the community side and on Discord to kind of let everyone know what was going on. We decided just to let Alex's family have their privacy and kind of recover, and then when everything was done, we would come out and just be back to normal. So
thanks.
Great to have you back.
The time for resting and the good wishes, of course, definitely worked. So yeah.
Good. Glad to hear it. So we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. One of the first things I want to mention is and I know that there has been a lot of different types of comments about the release date, and I wanted to clarify a couple things, and then there was an update on the Steam store page, and talk about that for a minute. So if anyone goes back to when we announced the game and talked about kind of the original target for the game's release, yes, we were targeting kind of a 2020 release. That was kind of the idea. It wasn't anything ever set in stone. If you go back to my original interviews with Veso back at Gamescom, we had always said that we're hoping for 2020, but the game's going to be done when it's done. We want the best Knights of Honor game that we can make. We want Knights of Honor 2 to be the best game it can be, and so we weren't going to ever lock anything into stone until we knew that was a date that we were going to be able to hit. So I do sympathize for some people that may have thought that was a promise for 2020. I don't. I'm not really sure why that may have been the interpretation. It was always kind of a target. And obviously, as you guys have seen from the dev streams and the dev diaries, we're still very much building the game and finding out where the fun's going to be and adding new features and just trying to make it as good as it can be. So now we're targeting 2021. I think it's probably, a good shot that 2021 will be the year, but that's our philosophy, not just with this project, but THQ Nordic as a whole. We really believe in as much as we can to let games have their time and be the best version of itself that it can be. So we're giving Alex and Veso and Georgie and all those guys over at Black Sea Games the time they need to really make it whatever it can be. And that's pretty much all there is to say about it. So I think if you follow the streams and you're involved, you'll probably start noticing when we're getting closer to actually saying when a date will be. It's obvious that we're still very much in development. I've said that multiple times that we're very much in development. Once we get a little bit closer and feel a little bit better, then we'll tell you. So I love in chat. Obviously, everyone's then clamoring for, well, is it going to be late or early or which quarter? And it's like, well, that's the whole thing. Game development is a tricky business, especially with these types of strategy games. There's so many systems. There's all this stuff that goes into it, and if any of you guys have played strategy games, you even know strategy games that even release and have rough edges on them that take time to polish off. So, we're working through that and trying to make sure the game is where it's going to be before we give any kind of promises or expectations. So, you'll see stuff in real time. Every dev diary, every dev stream, you're going to see more. I know one thing you're going to be excited about, and I don't know if I should be saying this, but I'll say it anyways because sometimes I can take some liberties. But I know the team right now is actually doing a really big pass on some of the UI and some of the visuals. We're actually hoping to soon be able to show a lot more gameplay footage. I think you've seen from a lot of other posts and talking about the game. A lot of stuff is what I call programmer art, where you just get things in and be able to mess with them because the features change so rapidly. But there are some features that are starting to kind of, lock in and feel a little better. So, we're hoping that very soon we're going to be able to show a lot more gameplay footage once we kind of cross that threshold of, okay, these things feel a little more solid and we have some visuals that are good, and now we're going to start pushing that out. So I'm actually really excited about that. I know that everyone wants to see, maybe Alex and I will play a multiplayer game against each other on one of the streams in real time. There's some cool stuff we can do there. So
yeah, that would be great. It will definitely happen. I can't wait for us to get to that point. But we're really appreciating the team, even the impatience of the fans for the game, because it shows that they care. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, please stay positive. For us, it's more important not to give you a game which feels incomplete and unfinished, unpolished, and so on. So even for our starting beta or even a closed beta, we prefer to give a more refined experience for the players. So yeah.
By the way, Kings of Honor, we will absolutely do a fan versus dev multiplayer at some point. It's going to be a ways in the future, but I promise you that will happen. And we'll probably do multiple of them. Maybe we'll do like a series of fan versus dev streams where we pick certain fans and play different groups. I know the multiplayer question comes up a lot. It's definitely gonna be more than 2 people in multiplayer, so we'll be able to have some cool parties and do that. So absolutely, we'll figure that out. So let's get into the topics. We have a lot to go through today, and we also have a lot of great questions on our community site. So as a reminder, please join our community site, community.knightsofhonor.com. It's where we post all of our dev diaries. We get a lot of really cool comments and questions, and we actually are going to try to tune our timing for this dev stream so that we actually have some time, more time than normal at the end to talk through questions. So there were some really awesome questions that even I think are good for us to talk about to add clarity to some of the diplomacy parts. So we're gonna join the forums, go in there and jump in and talk with us, and you'll get some shout outs and those questions answered during the stream. Absolutely. So our topic today, Alex, is diplomacy. So we're talking about diplomacy part 2. And I guess we're going through today the pacts and the defensive pacts and invasion plans, as well as some diplomacy actions. So last week we really talked about how diplomacy relates to war, like active war going on, and how you can deal or use diplomacy to get allies during a war or to help resolve the war. From what I understand today, we're really more focusing on what takes place before a war starts. So when you're at peace and you're trying to do things, and this comes down to kind of these 2 major ideas of defensive pacts and invasion plans. So maybe you can clarify what I understand the difference. Just kind of offer a little bit of information about the difference between what we talked about last week and what we're talking about this week.
It's for if you haven't played the game initially, it may seem that alliances and pacts are pretty much similar. And there is strong connection between the 2 because from pacts you can go to alliances. but the significance of those is pretty different because pacts they are outside of war, and there are a lot of different meanings and effects in the game, quite different from alliances, and what you can do in them. Yeah, we should get into details for the different forms, invasion plans and defensive pacts, because between them they are also kind of pretty different.
Yeah, yeah. And it feels like these are more like the packs and the plans specifically, they're more about the planning phase of what you're trying to deal with. You know, whether it be like trying to set up a defensive line or a sense of organization, or trying to prep to go to war. It really is kind of that preamble before you take an action or before an action is taken against you.
Yeah, or the preamble of not going into war, which is also very important stuff.
Right, right, definitely. Okay. So, I think one of the something that I thought was very interesting that we talked about in this in the diary was that you know, we had to end up getting here. Like really, when we first started working on diplomacy, we were focused on, I guess, what seems natural, which is how to improve relationships with other people. And then we ended up kind of moving in this new direction. So, can you kind of talk through how that happened, like what the process was there?
Well, the diplomat class and the relation between kingdoms practically worked, but they were not so immersive, and they were pretty one directional. You just try to get your highest possible relations with friends or potential enemies, and it was important, but it was not that interesting. And right now, with the pacts introduced, you have a lot of more dynamics between multiple kingdoms. You not only care about a single kingdom, but about its friends, potential allies, and so on. And the system, first of all, feels much more natural than before, because policy between kingdoms is a complex thing. And also it offers a lot of decisions. We have new limitations. For example, one diplomat can maintain just one of those pacts or invasion plans. So it's a tough choice to make. You cannot have it all. So it makes the strategies a lot more elaborate for the players.
Let's start with defensive packs, and just so everyone has a little more, especially for people that haven't read the Dev Diary, a little more context about what we're talking about here. So, tell us about defensive packs. What are defensive packs? What's the purpose of them? How do you organize them? And then we can start from there.
Yeah, so when a diplomat starts a defensive pact, it always has a target. This is the kingdom that you don't want to attack you, and you need potential allies.
In the neighborhood.
Yeah, in the neighborhood. And right, you can send your diplomat looking for potential members of the pact, or you can manually add some of them, and sometimes they can just request to join in, because defensive pacts are known by the other kingdoms. You announce them, and that is one of their main reasons to exist. It's not only the idea that if a war starts, together with your pact members, you will fight against the aggressor, but it's a measure that will discourage your potential enemy to attack you at all. Because, for example, if you have a very large kingdom next to you, which is not very positive towards you, then you hardly can stop it by yourself, and you need allies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, it really feels like it's almost like the kind of like NATO standoff kind of thing, where you're trying to build an alliance. It's very public and everyone knows about it, and it's like, all right, well, if you're gonna fight one of us, you're gonna fight all of us. And kind of like a deterrent. You know, it's like, you know, you don't want to poke the bear because the bear has a lot of cubs, I guess, or something like that.
exactly. You usually seek for other small kingdoms that are in your position and are likely to join in, or if you have a very good friend, a bigger brother, to protect you, this is also a possibility. You can make such pacts even with vassals or sovereigns to enforce your relationship, to strengthen it.
Yeah, definitely. So what's something that I thought was interesting about this, and this is, I guess, where the difference between invasion plans and defensive pacts almost sit. But if someone in the pact, like say we have a defensive pact together, if someone in the pact goes to war with the target, that doesn't do anything to the pact, right? Like it's really if anyone in the pact is attacked, and not if a war is initiated from someone in the pact.
Yeah, exactly. That's the deal because you're looking for allies and you're saying, dudes, this kingdom is too dangerous for us. We should unite and protect ourselves if they attack. But it's not. If you go to war with that huge kingdom, then your pact members they will never just join in to attack, to invade foreign lands and so on. That's not the idea of the defensive pact. Of course,
I actually really like that. To be honest, I think we talked about this a little bit in the last stream because it's a little bit related to what we talked about with the wars. You know, it's always been a hesitation for me in these games to get into some of these alliances because you just don't know. Like you get into an alliance and you're like, man, but they're bordering somebody else that I'm friends with, and I don't want to deal with all the mess if they end up getting in a fight with them because then I get drug into it. You know, that happens a lot in these games, and I love the idea of, you know what, okay, we're only banging together against this dude, and that's it. Like that's as far as our relationship extends. If you guys decide to go get trigger happy and fight somebody, I'm not getting into your mess. It's just this one guy. That's the one I care about. I think that's super cool.
yeah, that were the reasons because we wanted to separate the two things, the invasion plan and the defensive pact, because exactly you join with together with some kingdoms, but you don't want to be dragged into war you didn't sign for, and
Yeah.
that's the role of the defensive pact.
So for the invasion plans, it's a little bit the opposite. You know, it's in a way it's inverted from all the defensive pact designs, right? I mean, invasion plans are more about we want to attack this guy.
Yeah, exactly. In the invasion plan, actually, the other members they don't join in if the target kingdom attacks you, because they want to invade it, and they didn't sign for protecting your lands. And this brings a lot of interesting situations, because if the other kingdom, the target kingdom, decides to attack you first, and this may ruin your plans, and you can be in a war without having any allies in it.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I see some commentary going on in the chat, and just to be clear, you know, we did talk about the release date a little bit at the beginning of the stream. So obviously you can watch the VOD afterwards, or you can go to YouTube and kind of see that. I don't want to distract the whole entire channel about one stream about one topic. So we're going to keep on going on with the diplomacy, but you know, the whole point here is to give talk about diplomacy, and if you want to hear more about the release date conversation, please feel free to go watch the recording in the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes when we talked about that. So absolutely, I think that like the idea of having this kind of preparation where you have to get ready for the fight and gather your allies is really cool, and I think it's both realistic and very neat that the invasion plans are secretive, right? Like the enemy doesn't know until the invasion gets triggered.
Yeah, that's a necessity right now, because if the target kingdom knows actually your invasion plan, they will definitely attack you very very quickly. And the idea of that plan is to be secret, and there are methods of the target kingdom to find out about your plan.
Yes. And I love that. I think I love the synergies, and we're starting to see some of these as we're building out the different features more fully. But like the way that diplomacy and espionage kind of work together, where like it's like, okay, well, now if a spy is in it, and maybe you have a spy in the kingdom that's a member of the invasion plan, but not the leader of it, and you get like a rumor where it's like, hey, there may be an invasion plan organized against you, but you don't know who's a part of it, and you don't know who's leading it, and so then you have to go try to like figure. It seems really cool about, you know, real espionage and finding out these plans that are in place. It's super cool.
You gather bits of information about what's happening, and yeah, it brings it creates a bigger role for the spy, the spy class, which we'll
Absolutely
definitely discuss soon.
Well, and like we said, it's I love how interesting it is with the idea that, like, if you're making an invasion plan and the person that's targeting your invasion plan happens to attack you first, the invasion plan falls apart. Like, they're not in an alliance. It's a plan to go attack somebody. So say there's like 3 or 4 countries, like say it's like England and Germany and Austria, and they're all planning to attack France, and then France attacks Germany, the invasion plan falls apart. And now you're like, okay, crap, we have to do like a defensive arrangement to try to like help ourselves deal with this. And maybe some of those partners were like, hey, I only wanted to deal with it when it was before. Now that the war started, I don't want in on this. Like, you guys are on your, it just makes the diplomacy, like the way that these things work and intertwine. And again, with the whole espionage thing, if you get wind of an invasion plan starting, you may want to trigger the war early before they actually start. Like, there's some really interesting dynamics back and forth. And I love, I don't know, some of the ideas there are super, super cool.
Yeah, and imagine if France also has an invasion plan. So it's extremely important who strike first and what knowledge do they have for each other and so on.
It's, I mean, like as I've you know, you probably know all on the channel, like I play a lot of strategy games. Obviously, Alex and team do. This is a very unique system to me. It's something that I haven't quite seen done like this, and there's just a lot of opportunities for emergent kind of dynamics and diplomacy. To me, it's something that I've always wanted. It's like this fantasy of how you do diplomacy that I've always wanted, but in other games, and I'm not talking bad about them, I love them. There's a lot of great games out there. I've just always felt hesitant to get involved. I don't want to get my gameplay tied into a whole bunch of random stuff. So this more like focused decision, strategic based diplomacy, I think is very intriguing. I love it.
Yeah. Decisions like that is one of the reasons of the delay of the release date, because we have.
I wouldn't call it a delay. We talked about this earlier.
Okay,
you know,
true.
Yeah. That's a misunderstanding. Yeah.
But we had a perfectly fine working diplomacy system. But when the great ideas come, we just say, okay, we have to implement this. It will cost a lot more work. We should just start over some of the systems, but it's worth it. And yeah,
absolutely. And that's, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head where we want the game to have enough time to mature, to find these cool ideas and to let them come forward and really make it the best game it can be. And I mean, that takes time sometimes. I think it's difficult. And that's, I hope that the people who are joining us, one of the goals of the DevStream, I know I got these questions early on about why are we doing all these dev streams when the game's not ready to really show and everything. And I mean, me as a fan of games, even before I got in the games industry, I always wanted to know how these things were made. Like, how do these things happen? How do you evolve some of these systems? And you've heard us sometimes talk about, hey, don't get attached to this because we're changing things and we're iterating on things. Hopefully as fans of the Knights of Honor franchise, you're getting a window into how we build these things, how we go through these ideas. Maybe there's something we talk about that gets changed in 3 months or 5 months because we found out a different way to do it, or we found that it breaks some things. And you guys as fans both can see that process even when we're not ready to show the game yet, as well as throw your ideas in. And we read the dev diaries, we use them for testing things and seeing what you guys react to it. And I really, I hope you're enjoying it. I think it's a cool thing. So awesome, Alex. I know we want to move on to the next segment because we want to have enough time for questions. So I think we're going to bring Georgie on. Alex, we'll see you in a little bit for our Q&A. And now we're going to move on to bring on Georgie, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about the diplomat. So I'm going to wait till Georgie's up there, and then we'll get that next segment going. And I see Georgie's mic is still muted. Oh, I see he's unmuted. So hopefully he's. Hey, Georgie, how you doing?
Hello. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, good. I love
Awesome.
The beard is still epic as ever.
Yeah, slowly but surely growing back to its normal state.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I've definitely just abandoned my beard days. I'm back to scruff Brad.
You can always return to them someday.
Gosh, I was looking through. I was trying to find a picture of something the other day, and I saw photos of me with the big beard. And I'm like, my goodness, that was a bushy beard. I'm glad it's done.
Nice.
All right. So I think today we're gonna. Well, actually, how have you been? How are things going?
It's been going pretty all right. As we were talking before the show started, got some upgrades for my PC recently, so I'm just playing all the games I can get my hands on right now. Just
Yeah. I heard you. I heard you swiped a 3070.
Yeah, yeah, somehow found one. Yeah, very hard, but not impossible apparently.
And I tell you, man, the 3000 series and the big Navi stuff from AMD, I mean, both are super exciting. There's some
Very,
really cool stuff going on,
very
so I
exciting. Yeah.
love it. I'm such a geek for this stuff, so I end up reading all the news and watching. I'm not going to name names, but I watch quite a few tech channels and YouTube channels, and it's been a very exciting last 5 or 6 months for all of us computer hardware fans.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah, cool. So yeah, I'd love to see it. People in the chat, has anyone snagged a new card or new hardware with all these new updates and people excited? Yes, definitely a little bit of a computer nerd. But you know what? That's why that's mean I'm not gonna say PC Master Race because I have consoles too and I play consoles all the time as well. But you know, you get into this because it's fun. Like I've had this joke with my current significant together where it's like if there were ever a fire to break out, I would probably save my computer before her. Like that's the first thing that you grab. It's like, yeah, you come back for your other half, but like computers are first. Like that's the first thing you grab. So I don't
Definitely. They're very
know.
heavy though, those computers. The more
It really
stuff you
is.
put.
I remember I lived in California for a while, and when the wildfires were going on in California when I lived there, it was like when we were sitting there having to evacuate. That was the first thing you grabbed. You're like, all right, we got to evacuate. It wasn't like photo albums or everything. It's like unplug my machine, put it in the front seat, put the seat belt on it, get some like blankets and pillows, and now we can get all the other
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, by the way, no, you're not going to need a 3090 to play Knights of Honor 2 in widescreen. I don't think a 3090 will be necessary. But I mean, if you get one, great. All right, so we're going to go on with the diplomat now, and I know Alex talked a lot
Yep.
about the different invasion plans and whatnot. But let's get into the diplomat itself. So the diplomat, there's a lot of new actions that we're exploring with the diplomat in Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign. But let's start with the basics, right? What is the first like main action, the obvious one that diplomats do, which is improving relations, right? That's something that they have to do.
Yeah, definitely. Improving relations was actually one of the first thing we implemented for Diplomat back when we didn't have this exact system implemented, and it worked more of a spam action. You had to click it from time to time. It was a bit obtrusive, and you often forgot about it.
It was really
So
intrusive. I remember that.
yeah, yeah. So that's when we decided we should really change up stuff. And improving relations now just works passively. You just send a diplomat somewhere, and then depending on their on factors like mostly their class level, how skilled they are. I mean, they might be better at improving relations, and from time to time you just get a message saying, "Hey, our diplomat managed to do some nice stuff in this kingdom, and you have post-sex relationship." So it's pretty easy and interaction that you kind of do immediately once you get a diplomat. It's something that you're like basically what I do when I play is just I start a game, I check out the political view, look what relations we have, and sometimes I'm matched with, for example, a very hostile neighbor who has 10 times more promises than me. So I'm just gonna send a diplomat there and improve the relations.
Yeah, actually, in one of the last milestone builds that I was playing, I got into a situation where someone in North Africa declared war on me randomly. Probably just the AI is not that smart and mature right now. And so I had to go and deal with this like almost like a side war across the world. And then I won because again the AI is not that great right now. But and I had this like little almost like separate territory out on the other side of the world. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want a war over there because I'm bringing my knights back home and we're dealing with the part of the world that we were in. So I
Yeah.
ended up sending diplomats. I hired 2 diplomats and sent them to the neighbors to just improve relations so that the AI didn't attack me. Like it was just
Oh yeah.
trying to, yeah, definitely. There's a baseline functionality there. Um, One thing that I found really interesting that's kind of a new thing. I mean, I don't I think other games have done this too, but the idea that like the diplomat can help you resolve a war that you're in. There's an action about actually like helping you negotiate peace. So I think it's actually very makes sense of a diplomat doing that. Can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like the opposite of improve relations. With the improve relationship action, you kind of go beforehand before stuff went nasty, but negotiate peace is after the fact. You gotta fix up stuff, and it really feels nice once you get in some wars which you necessarily don't really have the necessary manpower to win. Right now, you
Right,
don't have a
right.
lot of armies, but it really hurts your economy. Your people are not happy that you've been waging war for so long. So negotiating peace just means that you send a diplomat and Passively over time, again, this is like a recurring theme for the diplomat now. The diplomat kind of increases the likelihood of the opposing kingdom to sign peace with you.
Yeah, I think it ties really well to like some of the other things we talked about when it like imagine your king is a diplomat and your king has like special skills that improve the likelihood of like things being accepted or a silver tongue so to speak or whatnot. And so you get into that war that you didn't want and then your king is sent as a diplomat to be like, you know what, why fight? Like let's just work it out. And all of a
Yeah,
sudden
definitely.
you can resolve that. So there's some
And
cool value to there, even if you're in war to be able to deal with it from a different angle, which I think is really neat.
and it's like one of those. It's one of, to be honest, it's one of the many factors that can go in favor of the AI deciding if they want to sign peace or not with you. I mean, I'm not gonna mention all of them because there are a lot, but it's a really complex system where it depends how much war score you have, as you've seen in the image we've shown in the wars and pacts. I mean, we track so many different statistics for the wars, which most of the times dictate to you like this is a good time to offer peace, but sometimes the AI is just annoying and they don't want to sign, and that's when you send a diplomat.
Right, definitely. So another aspect that I think is really cool about the diplomat is that we have this governor idea where royal court members can govern. Good Lord, Brad, govern a province. I'm not even pronouncing people's names on stream yet, and I'm already stumbling on my words. Govern a province and be able to influence factors in the province. And I personally, the governor type that I look at the most is the merchant, because especially in early game, obviously economy is so important. But I find it really interesting that we're kind of building the diplomat as another like very strong province governor. So what are some of the things about like the diplomat being a governor that may make you go, okay, well, for this particular province, maybe I want a diplomat instead of a merchant to govern it?
Yeah. I mean, you said it right. The merchant is obviously a very obvious choice for governing because he gives you a lot of gold. But the diplomat kind of works similar, but not exactly, because if you have a diplomat stationed as a governor, you kind of imagine boosting your well-being and the overall well-being of the population of the province more. So you have more food, you gain more happiness by having a diplomat there, you gain more population, maximum population. So it's not so immediate in terms of effects, but it gives you really nice bonuses that might play out in the long run. And the food bonus right now is definitely very useful because when you're in war, you kind of want to make sure you have a lot of reserves to supply your armies with. And that's what the diplomat can do. The merchant
Yeah,
can give you
definitely.
gold, but that's sometimes useless when you don't have the necessary food and population.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, see you later, Niners Gaming. So you have to leave, but thanks for joining the stream. We'll see you next time. Yeah, the I think it's really there's a lot of features that we're still fleshing out about how province development works and like how you use food and not morale, I guess, but happiness. And it's there's like some of those like kingdom traditions that you can grab that can help some of that, and obviously governors by nature help stabilize that. But the idea of like I was talking about a minute ago, this war that I had to do in North Africa that was kind of on the outskirts, and there are new people, they have to be brought into the fold. There's a culture aspect to it, so I can imagine like sending a diplomat there to be a governor of one of those new provinces. It can kind of help stabilize and bring things together. That's it. Again, diplomat, help negotiate with the population in order to help them be a little bit nicer. That's a really cool aspect there.
Yeah, definitely. Imagine you've just won a war and you've gained like 5, 6 provinces, and all of them hate you because they are not used to your rule. You can definitely
Yeah.
send a diplomat so you can increase the happiness and reduce the rebel risk. Also, the thing you mentioned about the war with the North African kingdom is interesting because this is an aspect we kind of like play around with and strive to balance out, because we don't really want you to be immediately affected by a kingdom that's on the other side of the map. So relationship drops and increases and passive increases and whatnot, they really look for the proximity of the kingdoms around you. I mean, that's a different topic altogether, but it's
Yeah.
kind of mixed with what we're talking about right now as well.
It's interesting you say that because obviously, at this stage of the game's development, there's a lot of weird things that happen just because, this is one of those aspects of game development where it's like you add a new feature and the AI doesn't know how to use that feature, and so it does all sorts of weird stuff. But the I actually thought it was kind of cool as far as like an emergent moment. I felt like it was like this expeditionary force that just showed up on my shore randomly, and it's like, oh man, now I have to deal with this, and then I had to react to it, and that was fun. So it's I know when we get later on in development, we actually start educating the AI, so to speak, on how the game works. I know Michael, the guy in charge of all the engineering teams, it's something we talk about a lot in our calls, where it's like, when is the right time for us to do a pass in the AI? Because you may teach the AI how to use a new system like diplomacy, and then you add a new layer to it, and all of a sudden the AI doesn't know how to use that layer, and you wasted some of that time helping it learn and understand how to use those systems. So yeah, Georgie does have a really nice beard. I agree, Yavor. It's epic.
I appreciate your comments.
No, Yavor, see, I already abandoned the beard. We talked about that. Yeah, but I'll let Georgie be the beard king. He can, or the Viking king. Yeah, there you go. So I want to move on to questions, but there's one last part about the diplomat that I want to mention, because it's, even though I'm excited about a lot of the different things, it's probably my personal most favorite new feature for the diplomat, and mainly because I think in Knights of Honor 1, this thing annoyed me so much, and it's the ability for the diplomat to find marriage opportunities out there in the world. So talk a little about this feature where you can actually have the diplomat look for marriage alliances and marriage opportunities.
It's a kind of a nice shortcut to have. It's something that I mean, if you're targeting a specific kingdom, if you want to make them, if you want to sign non-aggression pacts with them, have trade, and then build up to the marriage, I mean, fine, that's all right. Usually, that's what you would do. But there's so many kingdoms in the world. It's not really. You have so many other things to do. The last thing is for you to spam offers all the time to kingdoms and wait for someone to accept. So having that option added is really, I would say, a quality of life improvement, but also really
Quality of
fitting
life
well.
improvement?
Yeah. Oh
Was
my
that
God.
was
Oh
that a
no.
Freudian slip?
Oh no.
A quality of life improvement? Sorry, go ahead. I didn't. Yeah.
But it also fits really well with the diplomat, because again, it's a status which he goes into, and you kind of leave in there, and from time to time he just initiates offers from different kingdoms for them to offer you marriages. I mean, obviously behind the scenes it works for some for better candidates, which would fit better your prince or your king or your princess, or depends. But it's a really useful thing to have.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, it was a really cool aspect in Knights of Honor 1. I remember being excited about, the proposition of going out there and finding a marriage alliance, and obviously there's a little bit of risk involved sometimes with the politics that happen if like a king dies untimely or whatever. But I found that it was always, I don't want to say frustrating, because it was a fun part of the game, but it was always a lot of effort to keep up with where the best alliance opportunities were, because you'd open up the political view and you look around for they had the rings, right? There was a ring for a prince and a princess, and you'd be looking around the map, but then you didn't know which of those kingdoms were on good terms with you or not. So then you're flipping back and forth between the different filters, and it took a lot of time to just figure out what the opportunities were, like to even be able to visualize that. And obviously we're improving political view, and we're going to make some of those things even easier in Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign to look at. But be able to sit there and just go, you know what, right now I know I want to marry off my son or my daughter. Diplomat, go find opportunities for me. And it's almost like then the diplomat comes and says, what about this one? And you can decide yay or nay. But it's like the matchmaker, the searching algorithm that goes out there. And I absolutely love that feature. I think it's a really cool thing to help focus and bring qualified leads. Yavor wants to know if we can provide a service in real life, I guess. I don't know if we're in that business, but as far as the game's concerned, the diplomat finding those things are going to be really cool. I love it.
Yeah, and it adds also some nice flavor, because we were thinking about maybe spicing up things. Like, for example, if you get an offer for marriage, it might mention that the diplomat arranged that offer. I mean, we're thinking about some interesting aspects with the text, and small stuff like that really adds some meaning to what you see in the game.
And this may be scope creep. Well, this is definitely scope creeping. So I can see the people at Black Sea, they're watching this wanting to tell me to shut up, but it doesn't matter. I get on the stream, you can't stop me. Yay. There's I guess even this cool emergent thing where it's like, imagine the diplomat has helped bring the marriage together. Then the diplomat has a more effective action against that particular kingdom, because if that person becomes king or whatever, they go there, since they're the ones who formed the bond, then they can actually come in. Hey, I'm the one who set your marriage up. Remember me? It's like the guy coming in. I was at your wedding. Let's talk. You don't want to go to war, or we need help. It kind of adds to that fantasy play a little bit, as opposed to it being disconnected. It creates those emergent kind of storytelling moments. That's super cool, actually.
He must have romance level 3 though.
Right.
No, I'm just joking, but maybe.
Yeah. Oh man, you get the matchmaker perk. I don't know. That's just really cool. I like the ideas there, and I love the opportunities for, like, when I play those games. I think I've talked about this in a previous stream, but I remember playing like Civ back in the day. I think Civ 3 or Civ 4 was the first one that's really came out to me, where I'm like playing it, and I remember, no, it may have been Civ 5 even. And I remember there was this one city-state. I started the game and I wasn't really planning the game to be like this. And there's one city-state between me and all of my enemies. And originally I was planning to be more of a war-mongering guy, but I switched my civics to all be city-state oriented. And this city-state got conquered like 50 times. Because what happened is they would declare war on me, take over the city-state, and then I would rescue it back, and it just kept on being conquered over and over and over again. And in my mind's eye, I'm just imagining the dude sitting in a city being like, "Holy crap! Can we not be the guys in the middle that get get fought over for centuries and centuries?" And I love the fantasy of that. So like ideas of this like diplomat running around and being a matchmaker and then coming back and then remembering him, and like the dialogue pop up having like text hints that, you know, harken back to that action. It tells some of those stories that these games are really about. It's why we play these games, for those kind of emergent moments. So I don't know, it's super cool. I know I'm getting excited, but I just love this stuff. It's the part of these games that make me the most excited. So I think we're going to move on to Q&A. Georgie, anything else you want to throw out there about the diplomat before we bring Alex back on?
I think we pretty much covered a lot of the stuff we wrote in the stream. Happy a lot to be here as well. Thanks a lot for having me, and yeah, back to Alex.
All right, Georgie, thank you so much for joining us. And now we're going to bring Alex back, and we're going to, man, you know, while Alex is coming back on, this goat thing just does not stop. And the other Alex, the Alex producer behind the scenes is just like stroking the fires, right? He's sitting there like pouring a little bit of gas on, blowing, just come on, keep it going. Now we have Armored Goat Knight. Do you see this, Alex? Are you reading this?
I don't see it, but he will pay someday.
Oh man. I have to imagine that Veso may be watching somewhere in the background and he's seeing Armored Goat Knight show up and being like, "Oh God, what have we done? What is this stream birthing?" We'll see. Armored Goat Crusaders. It just doesn't stop. Maybe it'll be like you know what? I'll tell you this. If I'm not going to say if we will or will not add too much of the goat legacy into the game, but Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign will have a lot of mod support. So for those out there that have some mod talent, you guys could do all sorts. I will personally, if people create really cool goat mods, I will promise you that we will do a stream at some point in time on goat mods. We will actually have a stream for fun where we will like sit here and we'll screen share and we'll actually play goat mods together on stream. We'll do it. Have my word, it'll be a fun thing that we'll do. So maybe some goats will make it in some way, shape, or form, but the goat mod stream will definitely happen. So that'll be something for everyone to look forward to in the future.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. It's a thing. All right, so we're going into question and answers. I know we have a couple questions from the chat, but we had a lot of awesome questions on the Dev Diary. I want to make sure we have time to go through all of them. As a reminder, community.knightsofhonor.com, that's where the Dev Diaries are posted, and you can go on there and join the conversation. So let's jump right into it. The first one was from Shapo from Niners Gaming. Actually, I think he may have been on, and he was the guy that had to leave early, but we talked a little bit about this, but I'm going to go ahead and ask the question anyways. Could you give us some examples for spy skills in the stream that are focused on these relations? I would love to know whether it is possible to train one spy in detecting invasion plans and such, and another who gets skilled in assassinations, for example.
Okay, great. But just a few examples, because I don't want to spoil too much of the synergy between the diplomat and the spy. and overall the spy has a lot of cool new stuff. So just few samples. For example, one of the things the spy can do is look for rumors, and he can warn for the invasion plans and probably who participates in it. And this is something huge. Also, as we mentioned, the diplomat of the leader of the pact maintains the pact, and if you manage to bribe him or assassinate him, this is the end of the pact and the invasion plan.
Right.
There is more. There is more.
Yeah. I don't know if my face palm was while the camera was up. The reason why I did that is did you see? Did you see? Did you
No.
see that? Oh man, just don't don't look at the screen. Just I think everyone knew exactly when my stream caught up. You can watch the VOD. Alex,
Okay.
producer Alex, found a picture of an armored goat. Oh, there it is again. All right, so we're moving on. So like it just keeps on getting better and better. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. All right, so moving on. Zerg on the forums asked. So let me make sure I get this question right. The additional possibilities diplomats bring into the game sound great overall. Sweet. After reading the article, I've wondered if you thought about the possibility of being able to imprison or even kill foreign diplomats. Do you plan to implement some sort of maximum range diplomat can travel as well, or maybe even a merchant? So I actually thought there was a really, I don't know if we talked about that at all, but I thought it was a really neat idea about what if you wanted to get rid of a diplomat, did you have options there? Is that something that we've talked about some?
No, I don't think that we have discussed it. It was there was such an idea to voluntarily imprison a diplomat, but right now there is a possibility this to happen if a war starts.
Okay.
Yeah, the merchant and the diplomat can get imprisoned by your enemy, but during peacetime right now there is no possibility for them to be imprisoned. And about the distance, it's a separate question. There are some soft limitations. For example, for the merchant, the cost for opening trade route increases. For diplomat and for merchant, the likelihood of the other kingdom to accept your propositions is much lower, and so on. So distance matters a lot, but it's not hard limitation. It just reduces chances of things happening.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I think that one of the challenges of an idea like that is there's a lot of kind of knock-on complexity that gets added in. Once you can remove a diplomat, then we have to have a penalty if you do it, because it's like, okay, well, the point of having a diplomat is to be able to try to negotiate. So if you just decide to like close the console, for example, in a way, there has to be some kind of consequence for that. You can't just do it. So then we have to figure out how you have those consequences in, and it kind of makes things more complicated. But I mean, it's something we should maybe keep open. I like the idea of having this kind of, if I don't want to deal with the diplomat, maybe there's an action I can take to get rid of it. I have to pay for that action. It's going to cost me something, but then I can not deal with the diplomat's influence on things like the war score, or even if they're trying to improve relations. Like say, yeah, I think it's a neat idea. I can even see, like, imagine a warmongering type king, and you send a diplomat there, and you can improve relations. He kicks him right out. And he has to deal with it, but that's part of his action plan or something.
Those ideas are on the table, definitely, but currently we want for you to feel safe where you send your diplomat, and
it makes sense.
Not to think too much about the diplomats that are in your kingdom. That's the idea.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because then all of a sudden you're kind of worried about whether sending a diplomat is a good thing or a bad thing and has consequences. That's very true. Yeah, that's complicated, but it's a good idea. I like the idea. Thank you for the suggestion. Definitely. So BC Knight asked a really good question here. So thanks for the dev diary, he says. I just have a question because I don't fully understand this. Does this mean that if you have a defensive pact and you start a war with someone, will you lose the defensive pact that you have just because you started a war, or because you start a war against a specific kingdom, the target? So I think what he's really talking about is, like, say we have a defensive pact organized between Germany or something, and then I trigger the war against Germany. Does that defensive pact still exist for potentially after peace, or does triggering the war dissolve it? Like, how does that work? That's a good question.
No, you pretty much lose it because you cannot be in two wars with a single kingdom, and you can no longer maintain your role in the defensive pact. So if you start the war, the defensive pact dissolves. You can always start it again after a war, and you can
Yeah.
always try to get your the kingdoms that were in your pact to support you in the war, but they will not automatically do so.
That makes sense. I mean, if I've organized a defensive pact against someone and then I decide to attack them, I would almost imagine like the pop-up would have a warning where it's like, hey, by starting this war, your current defensive pact will be removed or canceled. So you understand what your actions consequences are going to be. But I mean, it makes sense. If I'm there's no reason to have the defensive pact once you've started the war. You can't have two war concepts at the same time.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so Ivory Knight, who I think is on the channel. So thanks for the post. You mentioned that the defensive pacts are always able to be seen by other countries. Would it be possible to have a secret defensive plan, secret defensive plans at the cost of maybe more gold or relational influence, so that a player doesn't? So hold on. So that a player doesn't see a defensive pact when looking at that particular country. However, with a spy in the enemy court, you may be able to reveal that there's defensive allies or something. So I guess the real question is like, would you be able to maybe at a higher cost create a secret defensive pact that maybe your aggressor doesn't know about?
Yeah, it sounds as an interesting possibility actually. So we might do something like this, but right now part of the importance of the defensive pact is that the other kingdom knows about it. So if we add such functionality, it will be alternative. It will not be instead of the defensive pacts we have right now.
Yeah, it would be like you could like it'd be again an added cost or an added thing to create a secretive one because it'd be much more powerful. If an enemy didn't know that there was a defensive pact against them, that'd be a huge reveal. But it'd have to have a cost. It couldn't just be something you could do by nature. I think defensive pacts would need to be exposed by nature. Yeah. Okay. Cool. By the way, I see now we have negotiations. I find that exceptionally amusing because I'm watching Community right now, the TV show. We're almost through with it, and in that show, there's a couple characters whose names they keep on using as verbs or part of words. Like I think Ben Chang is always like he uses his name Chang in all these different parts of words and stuff. So now we're doing that with the goat. It's great. It's great. I love it. Just doesn't stop. All right, so we have a couple more questions. I'm gonna try to get in before the end. I see a couple questions from chat that I want to answer, but I've been trying to respond to some other questions as we've been going. So we have Mehmet Harun, I think Harun, asks, I wonder one thing, will diplomats have an espionage feature? An example, can we bribe them? Can we bribe the commander against her kingdom by using the diplomat? And I'll answer that one. The plan right now is to really separate the functionality between diplomat and spy, because it was like, I think Alex kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. There was this almost blurry line happening where some of the diplomat actions could have been kind of espionage-like. And I think to kind of keep things for the player kind of simplified, not diluted, not less deep, but simplified so that they can understand where they go for certain types of actions. Things that are more spy-oriented, trying to convert someone is going to stay on the espionage side, and then things that are more relationship improving or interacting with people in a positive way would be on the diplomat side.
Yeah, just some short addition. There is synergy between spy and diplomat, and if you have them in the same kingdom, or if you bribe foreign diplomat, this opens a whole new, many new opportunities for the spy. So there is a synergy between them.
Yep. So I'm going to ask one question from chat. Templar Knight has a question from the forums and on chat. So I'm going to grab the chat one real quick because I think it's a good one. So Templar Knight 63 says, in a defensive pact, if a spy from the target kingdom kills the king or prince of one of the pact kingdoms, does the pact as a whole still go to war against the target kingdom? That's some like connected stuff right there. That's interesting.
So, who's the owner of the spy? Sorry, once again.
So, if a spy from the target kingdom kills the king or prince of one, so basically, if I have a defensive pact against Germany and all of us are in on it, and then Germany does a very aggressive action against one of the members in the defensive pact. In other words, kills a prince or a knight, which
Exactly.
is that's a big action. Does that trigger the defensive pact, or is it
Yes.
only if the war starts? Like, do very aggressive actions trigger the defensive pact? That's an interesting question.
If war starts, not just by declaring it, but due to circumstances that start a war, and there are a lot of such things and events, you can always define the aggressor, and the aggressor is the one who starts the war. So in this case, if you're the target kingdom and you spy, and this action gets uncovered, because that's important. And we know who
Yeah,
killed.
Casus Belli kind of thing, right? Like if okay, yeah.
And then,
okay. So that's interesting. So like I didn't understand that. So that makes a lot of sense. So if again, say I'm in a defensive pact against Germany, I'm just using we'll use a different nation this time. Let's say Bulgaria. Why not? I'm in a defensive pact against Bulgaria, and the Bulgarian king sends his spy to assassinate one of my knights, and that assassination tip, even if it's not successful, it's been uncovered. If I decide to declare war because of that assassination attempt, that would trigger the defensive pact because Bulgaria is the one that did the aggressive action.
Yeah, it's the aggressor. Yeah, that
Okay. That's interesting. That's cool. So it does give a lot of power to the defensive pact, even against like if you have a defensive pact sitting there and you're trying to do espionage actions against one of those members, you may give them an opportunity to all go to war against you. Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay. Let's see. We have 1 minute. I may go a little bit beyond, but I want to try to grab one more question here. So let's see. Oh, okay. This is another one from Templar Knight 63, and I think this is another good one that I wouldn't mind adding in. So I really like that everything in this dev diary and the role of the diplomats in KOH 2. Do the defensive pacts and invasion plans cost money and resources to keep them active, or do they remain active until someone chooses to dissolve them? He has other questions, but I wanted to grab that one specifically because I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, the short answer is yes and yes. You can dissolve them, they can be interrupted, and they have an ongoing upkeep.
So they have an upkeep aside from just the diplomat's action slot being taken up. There's like a cost to it.
Yes, the diplomat action slot is not actually taken. He can do other things while maintaining.
Well, right, but he can't do another defensive pact or invasion plan. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Additionally, you have some gold upkeep for that.
Ah, okay. And does that scale with how many people are in the? I didn't know this. Does that scale with how many people are in the pact, or is it just like a baseline cost?
Right now it's a baseline cost, but this may change very easily. It's one wine in the.
Ooh, and you know what? Maybe that's an opportunity for like a diplomat skill improvements. Like if a diplomat has like a merchant-oriented skill, maybe that reduces the cost upkeep of some of those different actions.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That way it like gives you a reason to take some of those other non-diplomat skills so that you can save yourself on gold and make your large packs a lot cheaper.
Yeah. We are still working on the skills, but we have a lot of such stuff that when you get a secondary skill, it's quite helpful for classes that you wouldn't expect. But the diplomat can have some merchant role like this, and so on.
It's, very cool.
Pretty nice.
Awesome, everyone. That's going to wrap our stream up as far as questions are concerned. This was a fun one. We had a lot. I was really excited to see some very, very good questions on the forums. Again, community.knightsofhonor.com is a great place to get plugged in with us. We also have other social channels. We have Discord. We have a lot of fun conversations on Discord. We have Facebook. We have our YouTube stuff going on. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to get plugged in as we continue to develop the game. But the website, the community.knightsofhonor.com, is a great site to be on. We had some awesome conversation on this dev diary. I hope that all of them get this good because there were some great questions. You can even see, and this is happening in real time. You're seeing some of your questions, like the ones from Templar Knight, that are spawning ideas that may end up in the game. So there's definitely a lot of really good feedback, and it's awesome. We love you guys getting involved. A lot of people were asking about the release date and talking about gameplay footage. We did talk about that earlier, so obviously watch the VOD when it goes up, or there's going to be a post on YouTube with the stream, so you can kind of flip through that. And we're really glad you joined us for Diplomat and our negotiations and the new war goat image that's going to be haunting me for from now on. And Alex, thank you very much for joining us. I'm glad you're feeling better. It's great to have you back.
And thanks everybody for joining us.
Yeah, and Georgie, I know you're there in the background, but thank you as well. As always, awesome having you on. And we will see all of you guys next time. Hope you have a great rest of December. We probably won't stream again until after the holidays. So we'll see you in January most likely. Have a great holiday time in December. Everyone stay safe and healthy out there. And we'll talk to you in 2021. Have a great one, guys. Cheers.